Okay, get this. We're going deep today. Deep into hip-hop, courtroom drama,
Oh, yeah.
and little Jungle Book.
Sounds intriguing.
Right. It's the rapper Young Thug.
Oh,
You
wow.
probably know. Stoner, that kind of stuff. His trial, it went on for 2 years.
Yeah,
It's just finished. And this case, it's wild.
I was following it
It's like a
carefully.
legal thriller.
It really was. I mean, you have this huge artist right at the top of the charts,
Yeah.
and they're accusing him of running a whole gang, this YSL thing.
Yeah.
And everyone's arguing, is his music just art or is it like proof? It
Yeah.
really gets you thinking about music, how it connects to our lives.
Totally. So
Yeah.
it all starts back in May 2022.
Mm-hmm.
Young Thug, real name, Jeffery Williams,
Right.
gets arrested with a bunch of other people.
Yeah.
And the charges, they were serious.
Oh, yeah.
Murder, armed robbery, racketeering,
Wow.
the whole thing.
Yeah.
They were using this RIKO Act. And honestly,
Yeah.
I needed to brush up on that one.
Right. Of course.
Can you break that down for us a little?
Absolutely. So RICO, it stands for Racketeer Influenced and Corrupt Organizations Act. Like a mouthful, right.
Right.
It was meant for the mafia originally,
Okay.
big organized crime families. But over time, they've used it for more and more stuff.
I see.
What's interesting here is how they applied it to Young Thug and his crew.
So they were saying that YSL, Young Slime Life,
Right.
it was basically like a mafia family.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Like a hip-hop mob,
Yeah.
and using this law that's meant for the big guys against a rapper.
Yeah.
It's a bold move. It makes you wonder, are they stretching Areiko too far?
Right.
And does this set a bad example? Like targeting artists for their image, for their music.
Yeah.
Especially in hip hop where the lines get blurry
Yeah.
between reality and what's just like part of the show.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
For sure. Besides the whole RICO thing, why was this trial such a big deal?
Well, first off, it was the longest trial ever in Georgia. 2 years in the courtroom.
You're kidding?
That's crazy, right? You
Wow.
just don't see that. It shows how complicated this whole thing was. Just imagine all the evidence,
Oh my God.
the witnesses, the lawyers arguing back and forth for that long.
I can't even.
It's mind-blowing.
Yeah. 2 years. I couldn't even sit in a courtroom that long,
No.
let alone be, the defendant.
Right.
There must have been so much pressure
Huge pressure.
on everyone. Did anything, during those 2 years, did anything happen that really changed the direction of the case?
There was a big turning point. 3 of the guys with Young Thug,
Okay.
they took plea deals.
Oh, wow.
Plea deals, they're always interesting, right?
Yeah.
Both sides, they have to give little.
Yeah.
In this case, those deals, they started to make people doubt the prosecution's case.
Oh.
It could have led to a mistrial, even.
So basically,
Yeah.
these guys, they said, okay, we're guilty,
Yeah.
but to lesser charges, so they get less time. But doing that, they kind of messed up the whole strategy for the prosecution.
Exactly. And for Young Thug, all this pressure, he was looking at a way harsher sentence if it kept going.
Right. Which leads us to, kind of out of nowhere, he pleads guilty.
Yeah.
What do you think made him do that?
It's tough to say for sure, but it seems like he weighed his options.
Yeah.
And cutting deal, it was the best way to minimize the damage.
Right.
Remember, he'd already been in jail for over 2 years just waiting
That's true.
for the trial to even start.
So in the end, he pleads guilty, avoids more prosecution,
Right.
maybe even decades in prison. But here's where it gets really interesting.
Okay.
The sentence, time served. He didn't have to spend any more time locked up.
Wow.
Plus, 15 years probation. No negotiating, the article said. But even with that plea,
Right.
the drama didn't stop there. The defense, they were arguing that YSL wasn't even a gang.
Oh, yeah.
It's a music label. Young Stoner Life. They even had this lawyer, he went viral,
Oh, I remember that.
explaining
Yeah.
pushing P
Pushing positivity, yeah.
during the trial.
Yeah, that was a moment.
It showed like this clash of cultures,
Yeah.
the legal world, trying to make sense of hip hop, all the slang,
The language.
the symbols. That must have been tricky.
Super tricky.
Yeah. So the defense, they're saying it's a music label.
Right.
But the prosecution, they're saying dangerous gang.
Right.
It seems like they really wanted to make Young Thug look like the mastermind.
Oh, the one in charge.
They even called him the leader of the pack at one point.
Oh, yeah.
And then Young Thug shows up to court wearing this wolf sweater
No way.
after they said that.
Oh, that's so good.
Like, was he playing into it?
Yeah, like a little bit ironic.
Yeah.
Maybe even a little defiant.
I bet everyone was wondering, is he trying to send a message?
For sure. It was almost like performance art.
Right in the courtroom?
You can't make this stuff up.
This case is already so fascinating.
Absolutely. But there's this one moment that I think really changed things.
Okay, what's that?
It's Trontavious Stevens. He was one of the co-defendants. He took a plea deal, too.
Okay.
And he testified.
Oh, wow. So he testified against Young Thug and everyone.
He did. He pointed to each person there and said, yep, YSL gang member.
Wow.
That kind of testimony coming from someone who was supposedly in it, it's
Yeah.
powerful, you know? A jury, they pay attention to that.
So you have this back and forth.
Yeah.
Defense saying the music label,
Right.
prosecution using lyrics, using this guy's testimony to say, no, it's a gang.
Exactly. Two totally different versions of what's real.
Yeah.
Clashing right there in court.
Yeah. We have so much to unpack here.
We do.
And we barely scratched the surface. So we were talking about how this whole case with Young Thug really makes you think about this line
Yeah.
between art, what's real life, you know.
Totally. It's like, how much can you separate them?
Right,
The
yeah.
artist from the art, especially when the art itself becomes evident.
It makes you think about all the songs, all the lyrics
Right.
about, hustling, violence, gangs.
Yeah.
We just, listen, bop our heads. We don't think about,
Consequences.
yeah, like, are we supposed to be thinking deeper about the music?
It's tricky, right?
Yeah.
You have freedom of speech.
Right.
You have art. That's important. Those are rights.
Yeah.
But then there's like, what keeps people safe?
Yeah.
What if the music is encouraging crime, you know?
Right. Right.
It's a balance. In this case, it puts it all out there.
And this wasn't just some legal thing.
No.
This was happening in Atlanta.
Right? Where he's from.
There are real worries there about gangs, about crime.
Absolutely. Atlanta's been dealing with this for years.
Yeah.
And the prosecution, they chose RICO for a reason.
Right.
They weren't just going after separate crimes.
Yeah.
They wanted to take down what they saw as this whole network.
Like a whole operation.
Exactly.
And that's something we're seeing more and more, right?
Yeah.
RICO being used for gangs, organized crime.
All over.
But isn't there a chance they're using it too much?
Oh, definitely. People say RICO, it's too broad.
Yeah.
It catches people who are just like on the edge of things, not the leaders.
Right. That's a good point. We got to make sure the law is used fairly.
So back to Young Thug and that guilty plea.
Yeah.
What does that say about how the lawyers were thinking?
It could be that they were worried.
Yeah.
3 guys already made deals.
Right?
The prosecution's building their case,
Yeah.
linking him to crimes.
Yeah.
Maybe they felt like they couldn't win.
Yeah.
A guilty plea, it's damage control.
Especially after that testimony.
Oh, from Trontavious Stevens.
Yeah, the one who pointed everyone out.
That was huge.
Yeah.
Someone who's supposedly in YSL
Yeah.
saying, yep, they're all gang members.
Right.
That really helped the prosecution.
Makes it tough for the defense to keep saying.
It's just a music label.
Exactly.
And then you have the whole leader of the pack thing.
And the wolf sweater.
Oh, yeah.
It's like a movie, you know?
This rapper
Mhm.
facing big time charges.
Yeah.
And he's playing into their story.
Right.
This clash, the courts and hip hop.
It shows that even in court,
Yeah.
there's this performance.
The image.
You can't escape it, especially in hip hop.
It's part of the whole culture.
Exactly. This case is so interesting. It's like the music industry, the law, the media, all crashing together.
It's a story bigger than the courtroom, for sure.
It makes you think about art, about who we are, how we judge people.
Based on what they create.
Exactly.
So where do we go from here? Young Thug, his case is closed.
Yeah,
But the conversation, it feels like it's just starting.
it is. The biggest question, I think,
Yeah.
it's how do we protect art,
Right.
but also make sure people are responsible for what they do.
What's the balance, right?
Where's the line, you know? Creative, but criminal.
Yeah.
Can we really separate the two, especially with hip hop?
Where it's all mixed up.
I don't-
Those are tough questions.
They are.
I don't know if they're easy answers. But this case, it makes us start asking them.
It does.
It makes us think harder about the music,
Yeah.
the artists, the way art affects everything.
It's a wake-up call, kind of.
Yeah.
To be more aware.
Okay, so we've covered a lot,
We have.
but there's more to explore.
Oh, yeah.
In the last part, we'll dig even deeper into what this all means for hip-hop.
Big picture.
Stick with us. We're back. Last part of our deep dive. We've talked about the charges, the trial, that plea deal,
Yeah.
all those big questions about art, what's okay, what's not.
Right.
Now I want to think bigger. What did this whole Young Thug thing say about hip-hop itself?
It shows you how people outside of hip-hop, they have these ideas, these stereotypes.
Yeah.
They take the lyrics literally, like it's a diary or something.
Like every song's a confession.
Exactly. Not a form of art,
Like saying Stephen King, he must be a killer because he writes about it.
Exactly. Or like horror movie directors, they must be crazy.
Right.
You can't just connect art and real life. That simply,
And using those lyrics in court.
that's the scary part.
Yeah.
It could mean that art itself becomes a crime.
Wow.
It sends a message to artists, especially in hip-hop,
Yeah.
which has always been about pushing things,
Right. It feeds into this whole way hip-hop gets misunderstood.
Oh, for sure. Hip-hop, it's been called violent sexist.
Like it's all bad.
Right, like it encourages crime, but that's so limited, such a small view.
Yeah.
There are tons of artists, they're talking about injustice, inspiring people.
Celebrating their communities.
Exactly. It's so much more than just the bad stuff.
It's creative. It's about survival stories, all kinds of experiences.
Right. This case, it shows you gotta understand hip-hop.
Before judging it.
You can't just take a few lines, an image, without knowing the whole picture.
The context.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's why talking about it is so important.
Educating people.
Having open conversations about hip-hop, the history, how it's changed, what it means for us.
It's social commentary.
It's a voice for people who don't have one.
For the things nobody wants to talk about.
Right.
It's real.
Yeah. It's about being true, speaking up against power.
Challenging everything.
That can make people uncomfortable, but that's why it's so powerful, so important.
Okay, as we wrap this up, what's the one thing you want our listener to take away from this? What have we learned from Young Thug, from this whole thing about hip-hop?
I think it's this. Look at art with open eyes, question what you think you know, and dig deeper,
Don't just accept what you see on the surface.
Exactly. Look for other viewpoints. Learn. Make up your own mind. The world's complicated.
Yeah,
Understanding it takes more than just quick stories and headlines.
that's a good way to put it. And with that, we've reached the end of our deep dive into Young Thug, the trial, the whole world of hip-hop. It's been a wild ride, lots of twists and
Oh,
turns.
for sure.
We asked tough questions, and hopefully we understand a little better now.
Yeah.
The power of art, how tricky it can be.
Especially when what's real and what people see, it gets all mixed up.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive. And until next time, keep exploring, keep asking those questions, and keep the conversation going.